Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, well, it's great to meet you. I'm Stella, and I love making miniatures for my Barbie's dollhouse using mostly cardstock. In today's video, I'll show you how to make this miniature microwave oven for your dolls, and as always, I have a free printable template to help you make your own version. You'll find all the infos and the download link in the video, so now let's get started! We'll begin by cutting this part of the template twice, and we'll glue the two sides together like this. As usual, I suggest using cardstock from old packaging for this because, well, first of all, it's totally free and that never hurts, but also it's very sturdy but super easy to cut. You can use a cutting machine if you own one, or just scissors and a penknife, or for the smaller details, an awl and manicure scissors. We're gonna top the resulting piece with a layer cut into white lightweight cardstock. Then we'll use the same material to cut this part, which we'll have to fold along these lines. And I'll be switching between different types of paper throughout the project, so check the top left corner to see which one I'm using each time. Next, we're gonna cut this part once again into lightweight cardstock, and we'll glue it at the center of the previous piece. Then we'll cut this part twice, and we'll glue two layers to the base, one on the left and one on the right. We'll do the same thing for this part, which we'll glue to the top and bottom sides of the base. Lastly, we'll cut this little circle and we'll glue it here. At this point, we can connect the four sides of the base using this strip cut 4 times into copy paper. And then we'll glue the resulting piece to the one we assembled at the beginning. And this is completely optional, but I was a little annoyed by this gray edge, so I covered it with a strip of copy paper. Next, we're gonna have to cut this part a few times, and we'll stack all the layers in 3 groups, each around 2 mm in thickness. We'll have to attach these bars to the bottom of the structure this way. Next, we'll need a flathead eye pin like this one, and we'll slide it into this little hole. And I recommend bending the wires lightly. We'll trim the bent part later, but for now, it'll keep the eye pin from falling into the structure as we build it. Next, we'll have to cut this part a bunch of times, and we'll glue all the layers together in 2 groups, each roughly 2 mm in thickness. We'll have to repeat the same step for this part. Finally, we'll cut this part twice, and we'll glue the 2 sides together. This piece should be 1 mm thick. At this point, we can attach these 5 pieces to the rest of our microwave structure in this order. Next, we'll cut this rectangle out of lightweight cardstock, and we'll glue it around the outer frame of the microwave like this. Then we'll cut this part twice, and we'll glue the 2 pieces to the left and right sides of the microwave this way. We'll repeat the same thing for this part, which we'll have to attach to the back of the oven. And as I briefly mentioned earlier, if you're cutting by hand, I recommend using manicure scissors, a penknife, and an awl for all the tiny details like these. But if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, a Silhouette, or an Nextel M1 Ultra like mine, you can use my digital templates, which you can find in my shop, linked in the description. Next, we'll have to cut this part a few times, and we'll glue all the layers together until we reach a thickness of 3 mm. Then we'll cut this part once into thick cardstock and once into lightweight cardstock, and we'll combine the 2 layers together. Then we'll print and cut this part, and we'll cover it with clear tape to make it look a little glossy. We're gonna attach the resulting little label to the last part, and then we'll glue the whole thing on top of the part we assembled earlier. The final piece should measure 4 mm in thickness. Next, we'll cover the top, right, and bottom edge with this strip cut out of lightweight cardstock, and the left edge with this one cut into copy paper. Finally, we'll glue the finished piece to the rest of the microwave structure. At this point, we can paint the outer surface of our little microwave, and of course I made mine pink because it's like the greatest color ever. And if you're curious to know which colors I'm using, you can find them linked in the description along with all the other supplies I used for this project. Now, if you're precise, you'll have no trouble painting within the lines, but if you happened to paint over the parts that should have stayed white, not that I did, this is purely hypothetical, but if I did, I would have scraped it off with the tip of a penknife. Again, not speaking from personal experience here, just saying. When the paint is dry, we can coat the surface of the microwave with a light layer of gloss varnish. You can also use clear nail polish if you prefer. It's time to add a few more details to make our little microwave look more realistic. First, we'll glue a small magnet like this one into this little hole. This will help keep the microwave's door shut later on. And I always recommend these magnets since they're fairly inexpensive but super useful. However, if you can't get them, poster putty or double-sided tape are a good alternative. Next, we'll have to cut this part out of metallic cardstock, and word to the wise, you can often find it in food packaging. We'll glue the 3 little buttons into these slots on the microwave's front panel. And if you want a cute extra detail, you can add dots on either side of the buttons. Then we'll cut this teeny tiny circle a bunch of times and we'll stack all the layers together until we get to a thickness of roughly 3 mm. We'll top the resulting little cylinder with this part. Then we'll cover its edge with this strip, and just a quick tip. If you peel off the cardstock layer, it'll make the paper softer and easier to glue. Finally, we'll glue our little knob to this eye pin, and full disclosure, getting the knob in place without knocking the wire into the microwave was a real struggle. In hindsight, it would have been easier to insert the wire last, bending it like this to keep it in place. You live, you learn. Finally, we'll have to cut all these tiny circles and we'll glue them in 4 groups this way. We'll have to paint all the pieces black. And then we'll attach them to the bottom of our little microwave. Time to start working on the microwave's door. First, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll glue all the layers together. We'll have to top the resulting piece with this part. And then we'll paint the entire surface black. Next, we'll cut this part out of clear plastic, and needless to say, this also comes from old packaging, and we'll draw a grid of crossing lines on its surface. I actually used the same method I used for the metal parts of my miniature stand mixer, so I engraved lines first. Then I filled them in with a marker. This is absolutely optional, but if you have a cutting machine, it'll make things look cleaner and more precise with way less effort. We'll have to glue this plastic layer on top of the black cardstock base, and the final piece should measure 3 mm in thickness. Next, we'll cut this part from lightweight cardstock and this one from thick cardstock, and then we'll glue them together like this. We'll attach the resulting piece to all the previous ones aligned to the right. Then we'll cover the top, right, and bottom edges with this strip cut out of copy paper. At this point, we can paint the front of the microwave door the same color as the rest. And since the cardstock I used wasn't white this time, I first covered it with white paint just to make sure everything had the same shade in the end. And again, if any paint gets on the glass part, you can just scrape it off with a toothpick once it's dry. We'll top the painted part with a coat of clear varnish. And lastly, we'll glue another magnet into this hole. To create a simple mechanism for the door to rotate and open, we will need a small straw like this one. I'll link it in the description if you want to get it, but you can also make a DIY version with paper as shown in this video. We'll need to cut the straw into 3 pieces, one 2.5 cm long and 2 9mm pieces. We'll paint the straws the same color as the microwave, and to make sure that the paint sticks, I first cover them with a small strip of paper. We'll glue 2 shorter straws to the microwave body and the longer one to the door, making sure it's aligned with the other 2. Then we'll grab a paper clip or a piece of metal wire and we'll cut it at the same length as the microwave. We're gonna slide the wire into the straws like this. Then we'll glue the top and bottom shut with a drop of glue. To make the handle, we'll cut this part several times and we'll stack all the layers together. And to give it a metallic finish, I added layers of metallic cardstock to the left and right sides. The final piece should measure 2 mm in thickness. Then we'll cut these 2 strips and we'll use them to cover the front and back of the handle this way. We'll have to attach the handle to the door. And our miniature microwave oven is ready. As promised, here's a link to the free printable template, and if you want to learn how to make a miniature fridge out of paper, you should watch this video next. And this is all for today. Until next time, bye!